This is the Lekker Rugby Pod with Harry Jones and Envia Velman, brought to you by Sit in Cars.
Yeah, so I try not to get too excited about awards, and I actually weighed in on this one just because I think Rassie must be forgiven, and I think the signal, what the message of this is, he's still not forgiven, and I don't like that. I don't like unforgiveness. No matter what faith system you grew up with or tradition of organizing your morality, you've got to say when someone's done enough to make up for what they did. First of all, we can argue about how bad it was. Like I said, I think people coming on, a coach coming on and say that there was a 16 players against me or that the referee cheated. It's far worse than making a forensic video where you play up the mistakes, but you inform the public. Shouldn't do it, but I think in 5 words you can say worse. So I've always thought there was a hypocrisy there. I think it was the main problem was that he embarrassed a referee for making way too many mistakes in a game, 22-ish, 16 admitted when, 4 or 5 is material error by Ben O'Keefe was considered to be the best in the tournament. So you want to get that level below 10, and you certainly want to get even below 5. And Nick Berry had 22 or something. And so, and they did sort of favor, and not intentionally, but it on the day, it favored the team that was the messier at the ruck. Messy rucks are a problem. They're hard to do. I think Rassie was frustrated, and he took a hit for that. But I think it's too much now. It's become like a fetish. Like they just won't look at the obvious thing, which is unless you have a rock for a brain or someone just like sucked out your brains and put them into a jar. There was only one coach this year in rugby. Our sport is 15s. 7s is a training skill. You have 10s, you have 7s, you have 5s, you have 4, whatever. Did nothing. That's the stuff you do when you're trying to not get hurt and you want to run around your tackies. Rassie Erasmus took the most difficult task in World Rugby, which is how do you follow up a win when everyone's emptied out their souls, they got nothing left, and then you say, let's go again. Oh, by the way, let's play Ireland, who really wants our blood. Let's have a public that is incredibly difficult, the most difficult fan base on earth, which is, I want you to bring in new talent, play different, attack, but you can't lose, not allowed to lose. And I want to see my old favorites, but I also want to see the new guys. And by the way, anything that happens wrong, it's the coach's fault. And everything that happens good, it's the players. Not to be grumpy about that. Survive personal difficulties in your family life, health-wise, love-wise, relationship-wise. Let's be honest, that's tough stuff. Bring in new coaches, a New Zealander and an Irishman, and try to make that triangle work. Suffer incredibly tough injuries. Have a game where a team just came in to fight, like at the docks or something, and broke our legs and arms. Rassie Erasmus, he blooded players. He brought players into the mix. He wasn't afraid to get young guys like Sasha, the 14th most minutes in the team. He wasn't afraid to take on sacred cows. He was on time. He was on point. He was more gentle in speech, more temperate in aspect and character. He was complimentary of his opponents. He grew the game for World Rugby. Of all the coaches in the world, he has opened the game more colorblind, more class blind, and more progressively than any of these posers. He walked the walk, and the results are there too. Sorry, cherry on the top, but for a drop kick that goes over and a place kick that doesn't, he's actually unbeaten. And did it with humor, and did it with swag, and was an executive producer of the best documentary that rugby's ever had, and the only one that's ever even coming close to capturing the pathos and ethos of rugby. So, fuck me. Why wouldn't he be coach of the year? Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get a guy that actually you say, who are you? And we'll put that guy. That's a joke. And you should be ashamed of yourself for rugby because it doesn't make any sense. You're saying that the lifetime of punishment for a COVID era Lions tour where Warren Gatland was full of shit and was accusing TMOs of cheating. And then Rassie did too much. He overreacted and he was too sarcastic. My bottom line, he was too sarcastic and it come off as a bully. But ever since then, he's been probably the most positive force in rugby, who has created, well, that's too strong. He has given the platform for guys like Sia Khaleesi to transcend rugby. Sia will be the first one to say that if, when he's doing his thank yous at the end of his career, who's going to be the first guy that he says? It'll be Rassie. So I don't think that makes any sense. That being said, I doubt that Rassie's not motivated by this. I think Kev will motivate him very highly, and so to that extent, we could probably thank them. And maybe in 3 years' time, we're gonna look back on this moment and say, and that created the fire in the belly that he needed. What's the primary trait of a head coach in rugby now? They're part ambassador. They're part visionary. They set the course. They're like not just the guy on the ship steering through the Southern Ocean and not hitting an iceberg. They are actually the admiral of the armada, because they have to, in Rassie's case, deal with a Japanese club, an English club, a French club, all our warring unions at home, and somehow create coherence. But key among that is to be able to attract and keep assistant coaches that genuinely like you. When they admire you, they fear you on some level. They're happy that that you picked them, but they like you. And if you look at the most likable coaches in the world right now who have the hard edge as well, like, it's obvious who they are. Andy Farrell is clearly a guy that people like to work for. They left England to go work for him. It's clear that Rassie is not just the persona, but he's actually probably an interesting guy to work with. Maybe he's a bit wild and crazy, but it doesn't seem like he's also a guy that makes you work till 4 a.m. He knows how to have a jaw. Look across the way to Razor Robertson. Bit of an odd guy, but people who worked for him, they do seem to like him. Joe Schmidt, in the course of 1 year, they lost to Scotland, but I mean, you cannot underestimate how big a leap he made. And he was the same way at Ireland. He was decent. He's a decent man, in contrast to the stories we hear about Eddie. So I do think Rassie has shown us that he can work with different nationalities. He can work with different types of personalities. He can work with the word nerds and the students and the noses, but he can also work with a guy like Don Human, who maybe, like, everyone's just different on his team. It's fine. You got a guy like Stick, you got a guy like Human, and I don't know if they'd be friends in real life outside that or not, but it just feels like Rassie knows how to put together that stew.